Alright, Diablo 4 Sorks, it's now time to play the ultimate ice build with a brand new Hail of Verglass unique item. It's actually quite fun. So what this item does is instead of ice shards shooting in a straight line, you're going to be shooting out like a multi-shot rogue or a demon hunter, and it is absolutely awesome to play. You're going to be able to complete all forms of content. I'll show you guys a variety of things in the gameplay. We'll go ahead and start off with one of the new apparition incursions. I'll kind of talk a little bit about how the build plays, and I'll also include the planner. But it's really important that you guys pay attention to the video here, not just go copy the planner, because there's a couple things that aren't correct. The reason why is because the items don't exist on a lot of the builders because it's brand new, so you have to pay attention to it. Anyways, so for starters, what makes this build really cool is we're able to freeze things, and when things are frozen, well, everything kind of just shoots out, and we get all of these nice free ice shards with one of the enchantments. You see my ice shards is rank 30, which is crazy, which isn't even min-max, which I find it to be crazy. But we'll show off some Torment 4. So remember, Torment 4 is much harder in Season 8. But this build is going to have no problem whatsoever doing Tormented 4 content. In fact, the damage of this build actually gets stronger as you play. And the reason why is with the brand new unique, you get not only ranks to your ice shards, which is a crazy amount. I don't even have a triple masterwork, but you also have it shoot more ice shards, and then the enemy takes more damage each time they take damage from ice shards, up to 75x if you happen to have a good one. So that's essentially how the damage will be ramping up. So you can do a little bit more damage against the bosses. Now, is it on the same level as Season 7 Bloodwave? No, it's not going to do that much damage. In fact, I want to say a lot of things have been mega nerfed, but at the same time, it's almost a good thing, so you guys can actually see the bosses. I will also do the brand new boss. Right now, we also have the Beasts in Ice Power, and we can go ahead and do this little incursion solo here, but you'll notice once in a while, once we go ahead and freeze things, that we're going to get this extra ice that just freezes more things. And the reason why we want things to be frozen is because when things are frozen, we're going to get automatic ice shards to just shoot out. And the reason why it works that way is because of the enchants. Let's go ahead and just kill one more of these. We'll do the boss here, and I'll go do like a quick little pit run, and then I'll also do a big boss run. I'll do the brand new Belial at the hardest difficulty. This is the Super Omega Belial, by the way, that we're going to be doing. But we're almost done here. We just got to kill one more. And if you're wondering kind of how the build plays, you kind of just shoot at ice shards. Now, there's some room here for theory crafting still. This is in day 1. While I was streaming this, a lot of people were asking, can I have the build? And so I'll give it to you guys early, but I'll also mention that I will be updating the planner so if things kind of change. Because right now, the reason why I'm running Fireball is because I want to upkeep all the Talrasha bonuses, and it's just too hard with just Flame Shield and Teleport without any cooldown reduction rolls on your pieces of gear. You could maybe put more points into it, into like Teleport and some other skill maybe, but right now it's just kind of a placeholder so I can keep my Talrasha's bonus up at all times. But here's the boss. We can go ahead and activate our freeze here, but most of the time, I'll be honest, I just activate it for the bonus. You just kind of go in and out of it, and then it resets all your cooldowns, which is kind of nice as well, so if you want to teleport more. But the build is extra tanky. If you guys notice, I'm not really tanking or taking that much damage at all. And the reason why is because we get to generate so much barrier. You can see the damage. You could hit for billions, by the way, in this build. But now that we've shown off this open world mechanic, I want to go into the pit. We can push a lot higher in the pit, but I just want to go ahead and give you guys some gameplay so you guys can kind of see how it works. And the pit, honestly, as you climb up, it's going to get way more difficult, as there's going to be a lot of builds that probably can't even do pit 100. But what we'll do is we will go in and let's do what would be equivalent to Torment 4. We can definitely go higher. Obviously, I've gone higher, but I want this to be kind of a quick video in terms of like the gameplay to show you guys how it plays. And I'll also give you guys 2 versions of it. One's going to be kind of a speed variant, and then one will be a little bit better for pushing. But the concept of the build remains the same. And the most important thing is really getting your glyphs up to 46, because that's where you get the bonus. You can see the build has pretty much no problems with most of, well, this is tier 55 again, is going to be a lot harder for Season 8. But you can see kind of how the build plays. It has no problems at all, so you're going to be able to get your glyphs up to 46, because there's going to be a lot of builds that will definitely suffer. Now, do I think this is the best build in the game? I actually don't know yet. I think a lot of the powers will actually have a lot to do with what ends up being the best build. But the build is very, very awesome because it feels super satisfying to play, because what you're able to do is kind of ramp up your damage. But I think you guys get the idea. I don't really need to do more of this. Obviously, we can go much higher, but I just wanted to go ahead and show off some quick gameplay. I still need to get some certain things to be like the perfect rolls if you really want to min-max. I have technically put in the PTR, all of the things at least going to 12 out of 12 masterwork, but I also want to mention some swaps if you want to do some bosses. And the reason why is the way it works, since this is going to be like an ice variant build, right? The Beast in the Ice Sleet, you probably want to swap this off for something else, and the reason why is because it only applies when you are able to freeze or apply a crowd control to the enemies, then it's going to freeze them. If you're playing against a boss, this is not going to be good. So I have two different variants here, and they will have different equipment. So again, make sure you guys check out the notes, as the helmet will show up as Harlequin because I can't put this in. There is a lot of websites that are still doing some work around in terms of getting everything ready for Season 8. But there's a couple different things you can play. You can actually play the Piercing Cold in a two-hander if you want to, but in a two-hander you lose out on the implicit, and this build is heavily reliant on vulnerable damage. So as far as it goes, the things that I would swap, now I'll go ahead and mouse over the pieces of gear real quick here so you guys can kind of get the idea of kind of how it works. But this is more of a fun item. It's more so for speed clearing, because when you kill a frozen enemy, they will release another Frost Nova. The Frost Nova will be maximum size over here, so it's maxed out. I don't think it matters past 100, by the way, so don't feel like you need to get a GA. In fact, getting GA Life is probably one of the better ones. But we also have this over here, which is called the Mind Awakening. And what this allows you to do is every single time we cast a Frost skill, we gain 6% barrier as our HP, which is really great. And then we're going to be running the Piercing Cold, so the Ice Shards can then pierce, and we get to get more damage. And then we're also running the Avalanche key passive here instead of the Shatter. The reason why is it's just a little bit better against the bosses. You also get another 100x if you put it in the Amulet. We have Tal Rasha's over here, which is in every Sorc build, the Star of the Skies. And then I ran Accelerating because it really helps out on the bosses with the Gregor. But again, you can run a 200 if you want to. It's kind of up to you. So some of the things I would swap if I was to maybe make this more of a push-oriented build, I would go ahead and run Gregors. And if we're running, what powers are we running? We're running the Beast and Ice for the major power. And then for the minor powers, in every single build, if you want to do any boss content, you have to run Lilith. Or if you want to do push, you have to run Lilith. It's some of these little like blood boils, and these little boils, if you kill them, it makes the boss, or whatever, the elite, take 10% more of their life. It gets 10%. It's probably one of the best things. I hope they don't nerf it because it really helps out in the game. And then since we're stacking as much vulnerable as possible, we want this. The first part where it uses the basic skills, we don't care about that. We're just worried about the second part. After the period, it says activating your main boss power, which is this. But when we swap to the push variant, we're going to be running Gregors. It's just going to give you 30x vulnerable. Your main boss power grants extra 30x vulnerable damage. And then our Hatred's Embrace over here. This thing is crazy. It gives us 70% critical strike chance. That's not crit multi, that's critical strike chance. So basically, if you run Ring of the Starless Skies, which you're going to want to in the build, you have base crit, and then on the Paragon board, there's a couple like crit nodes. You're going to have 100% crit without really requiring to roll crit on the build. It will not show up, by the way, in the damage sheet. If you check the damage sheet over here, it will not show up as where if we go to crit, it says 45, but it's 45 plus 70. It doesn't show up correctly. It's just a bug. But yeah, we get 70% critical strike chance, which is crazy. So what would I swap? If I want to do some pushing with the build, this is what I would go ahead and actually lock in. So I would swap my Ice Heart Breas because, well, we're doing a boss right here. And if you're doing a push build, this is more for speed. I love this. This thing is super great. If you want to just run Frost Nova, you can literally activate Frost Nova. It's going to kill things, freeze other things, and you just get all these things shooting out for free. You literally don't even need to hit Ice Shards, which is really cool. Sometimes you can walk for a little bit because one thing kills another thing that explodes, that freezes, and then it's going to kill another thing, and it just keeps going on. Love this. This is one of the most fun items in the game. But if I was to do a push build or doing any of the bosses, remember, the bosses are incredibly hard. A lot of builds will not be able to do the bosses, but this is just a massive amount of damage reduction for the build, and then it's just kind of like just in max life. So this is one thing that I would swap. And then another thing, if you want to swap out, you can maybe swap out the Ice Shards. We do want to run Spark, and the reason why we're going to be running Spark is because Spark will give us the... if we kill the Blood Boils, we could also have a chance to spawn in the Crackling Energy, which is pretty important. But as far as like the skill tree, I'm going to go over this kind of quick. Again, I will link everything. The skill tree will be totally fine as far as it goes, and you will have infinite mana with this build as well. But yeah, this gives us extra damage. This gives us some more damage. I maxed out both of these because I want to freeze things as much as possible. I want to say, honestly, you could probably drop Deep Freeze completely. There's like another multiplier for your Frost skills. It does make everything vulnerable, but we're going to have a chance to make things vulnerable as well. This is what makes Sort good. It's 70x over here while you have Crackling Energy. It also periodically picks up nearby, but how it works is if we run the Spark enchantment, it's just killing an enemy has a 20% chance to form them. Obviously, if you're fighting a boss, you'd be like, well, I can't use that. No, that's wrong, because you get to summon the little boils, which if you kill them, there's 3 of them, there's a chance, right? It's still technically a chance, but you still get that benefit, which is great. But if I was to do a boss, I would remove this because you're not going to constantly crowd control the boss, right? So instead of this, the best choice is actually to be Gregors. So now that we have kind of locked this in, I'm going to show you guys what I would do against the boss. I would also swap some of the runes. So the current runes that I'm running are Neo Vex. This one will only give you 1 extra overlap, so it's a +2. But the other one we're running is Bakthul. So I'm just making this for speedrun. So if I'm just walking over here, right, what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to have this thing freeze everything, and then it's going to give me the ability to automatically shoot out the Ice Shards. Really fun. But if I was to do a push build, I'd probably rather run Seer Vex, because that way we can get the full benefit of the +3. Otherwise, you won't get it. And then we can also run Neo here. And right now I have Thul, and I would swap it to, let's say, something like Ohm, so I can get another set of damage. As long as I don't take damage, this is pretty much up the whole time, because it requires 3 times and it lasts for it activates every 2 seconds, and the War Cry lasts for 6 seconds. So that's how we would activate it. So let's go do the brand new boss over here, guys. There's actually several new bosses that we can go ahead and do, and I want to do the Super Omega one for you guys over here, which is Belial. So you can teleport, and I'll show you guys the boss. And again, a lot of builds, I'm not even kidding when I say that they cannot do that, and it's for lots of different reasons. But this build is really good because it's going to be beginner friendly, because it's so tanky, because of, well, this is pretty good, but it's mainly because you have the ability to regenerate so many barriers. So let's go ahead and do this boss, and you guys will see that it's capable of doing all forms of content. I want to say most builds are probably going to be able to do it because of the Lilith thing. So this is the brand new Omega boss. This is the hardest version of it too. So go ahead and do all of our stuff, and get our little bonuses, and then we can go ahead and delete the boils, and you're going to see him melt. And I know, like, previously in Diablo, like, I've shown you guys so many builds where we just one-tap the boss, but this is incredible damage, guys. Like, I've seen a lot of people, if you look up other people's builds, you'll see that there are a lot slower. And this is Belial in, I don't know, is that like less than a minute? So yeah, if we kill these boils, this makes things so much easier. And I know it made it look easy, but again, the bosses are actually very challenging. But if you're running a good build, like, I would say this is a pretty solid build. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the best build in the game. Honestly, a lot of people feel like this build's underwhelming, but I actually find it to be quite strong. Wow, we've got a GA spear. Unfortunately, this thing still kind of sucks, but this is what I actually plan to play in the next season if things don't change. There's also a chance for Belial to come out again. We can kill him again, but you guys get the idea. But as far as it goes, in terms of like the Paragon stuff, I guess I could open up in game here too. But I will also be updating the planner, as I really like this build. It's actually one of my favorite builds so far that I've played. So as far as it goes, again, I'll link the planner, but I'm going to make this real fast. So we're running Control over here. So we're running Control on the first one. We're running Tactician. And this one gives us a bunch of bonus to all the rare nodes, and one of them is going to be vulnerable. You're going to see a lot of vulnerable damage in this build. So yeah, Frigid Fate over here. And then for the third one, I think we got Icefall. The reason why is because you want all the yellow ones to get their bonuses, but False Death usually gives you a bunch anyways, that chest armor, because you get a bunch of all stats. But then we run Icefall, and then we're running Unleash, and then we are running Destruction with Fundamental Release, and then we are also running Ceaseless Conduit. So Crackling Energy is pretty important for the build, and we're also running Exploit because we want, again, vulnerable damage. So as far as other things, if you want to maybe try to swap things in and out, I felt like the build had a lot of mana. Like, mana wasn't an issue, but if you maybe want to drop Unleash, you can try, because how it works is, the reason why, by the way, we have infinite mana, we need to be hitting targets for it to work. There is this thing over here on the skill tree to explain why we have infinite mana. It's this one over here. So you have cold damage against a vulnerable enemy, has up to a 20% chance to generate 20 mana. One thing that is important with this build, you need some sort of source of vulnerability. I do not like to rely off of the Frost Nova. So you need to get this either in your amulet, or you can get it in your gloves. You will also need to get armor. So you can, if you don't want to run this pair of pants, that's totally fine, the Ice Heart. You do want to get armor in your pants. You can also roll the temper in your armor. You can get this in your amulet as well. Ideally, you'd get Int is great, and then like 2 other like different multipliers would be great as well. But if you want to get lots of vulnerable damage, because again you're going to be stacking lots of vulnerable multipliers, that's what I opt to go for. But make sure you guys put on chance for Ice Shards to cast twice, and if again you can run it 2-handed, but then you lose out on the vulnerable implicit. But yeah, I really like it. I've actually looked at a couple different variants of the build, and I was trying out other things. Technically, there's a higher number for damage against the frozen enemies, but you lose out on so much damage against the bosses if you play it that way. If you play it the way that I have designed it, you're going to be having a much better time. Otherwise, you run into the situations where the boss, since he's not staggered, you just do 0 DPS. I was also originally trying to upkeep with Stormspell with Ice Armor. Even though there's a 50x multiplier, you might as well just go with a 2-hander, and then you don't have to worry about his Ice Armor up to get good DPS, which is a great skill. But then you need to roll like CDR and then also duration, and then you lose out on convulsions, and convulsions, well, it's a big multiplier. You can see it's 70x here, very, very big. But yeah, have some fun with, guys. This is what I'm going to be calling like the Ice Shard Goddess build or something like that. But it's a really fun build. Again, the thing that I like the most with this build is that for most people, again, you don't really care about, like, I gotta do a pit 150. Some people, that's what they care about. I don't know if any build, honestly, is going to be able to do that. But the thing that I really like with this build, I love playing with these pants, too. And again, playing with those runes, in particular, when you're running Bach, you can run Bach, and then you can run Bach Thol, and then you can also, I don't know what this one's here, but Neo is excellent as well, because Neo will give us the ability to just consistently get, or Vex, or I'm sorry, it is, where's Thol? Okay, so yeah, if we run Thol with Neo over here, it's just going to make it so every once in a while we get to freeze something, and I really do like that. And then you can run Bach and then Vex, and then these are the ones, again, if I was to go to a boss, I would swap to get more damage on. But as far as it goes in terms of playing in like the open world content, this build was just so much fun to play because, again, I'll show you guys where you can just basically walk. You can run Bach, or you can run the one where if you just don't take damage, because we're going to have this barrier, and you can see we can just walk, and then eventually you'll get this freeze, and then you can see that things are just taking damage already. So when you compound it with basically getting a multi-shot build, it's really cool. It almost reminds me, if you guys are a fan of multi-shot Demon Hunter in Diablo 3, this is what it actually kind of reminds me of, kind of, because you get this nice little spray, and then they start taking, like, ramp up damage. But again, if you want to run the other powers, the other one to freeze, go ahead and run that one. The lightning one is better, because again, you need to activate your main power, and if you run the Beast and Ice one, it'll work against the open world stuff, and in the pit it'll be great. But if you're doing specifically like the bigger bosses, you're just going to get more value out of the other ones. But if there's any other rooms for improvement on the build, definitely let me know down below, Sorks. But yeah, have some fun with this build. It was a blast to play, and we'll be dropping a lot more cool Season 8 builds. So if this is your first time here, hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and I'll come out with a more proper build guide. Usually I like to have this side by side, but again, there's a lot of things that aren't like properly in here. Also, another thing to note, Fist of Fate is actually better in the game because it actually applies vulnerability instead of random crowd control now, which is great because you need some sort of source of vulnerability in the build. But you just get a regular pair of gloves, throw on any offensive aspect like Edge Masters, and you're going to be good to go. Anyways, take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next video, and it'll also be in the pin for the planner and the link in the bio if you're watching this on TikTok. But have fun.